I asked 4 of the fastest Speedcubers I know to roast my solves, and here's what they said. These cubers are all either sub 10 or very close to it, so they know what they're talking about, and in total, they gave me 15 of the most important tips that you need to know in order to get faster at cubing. This is way longer than my usual videos, but I promise the longer you watch, the more value you'll get out of it, and the faster you'll improve at cubing. So grab a snack, put this on while you're cubing, or just listen to it in the background. Let's get started with the first solve. Here's StewCube.
Alright, so for the solve, you ended up inserting this cross edge first, and then you actually move this blue up, so you can put these both in at the same time. But the main problem I see with that is that you have to do this, and then you have to regrip again to do that move. So just for cross, it's not very nice ergonomically to do that. So instead what you could have done is actually hold it like this whenever you're picking up the cube, right? And then you do this B move like it's a U move. And you can also do a D at the same time. So if you just do this, it effectively does what you did, but it does it from a nicer position. And I'd also track this pair, but that's pretty redundant in this situation. So you just solve the cross like that, right? So what you did is you basically, of course, you just did the cross like this, and then you actually ended up rotating for this one. So you could have just done it with a B move, which probably would have been easier, but yeah. So after that, actually, this is actually a really nice part of the solve from you. I don't know if you saw this or not, but basically what you did is you ignored this pair and solved this one first, just 2-gen into the front, which actually ended up leaving this one with just L and U moves. So there weren't any rotations for these two, which was pretty nice. Because if you just insert this, then this corner gets misoriented, and then you have to do D moves or whatever to insert it. So yeah, so what you did is you just inserted this into the front, and then you inserted this one into the front. So that was pretty nice. And then for this pair, you actually ended up rotating and then pairing it up like this. When you can actually just do this rotationless into the back if you just hide the corner and then insert it like that. And that actually ends up making this a pretty good pair as well. But anyway, you ended up just inserting like this. And then for this pair, there's really nothing wrong with how you solved this pair in the solve. But you could have done it rotationless if you do like a lefty sledgehammer and it keeps edges or whatever, but that's not really worth it in this situation. So what you did is perfectly fine, and you just inserted it like that. And then for this OLO case, you can actually predict PLO really well by just saying that this bar is going to go to the front, and this little 2x1 back here is going to go right here. So from here, you can basically deduce that it's either going to be an A perm or a U perm, because this is an adjacent headlights. So from here, you just did the alg, standard alg, of course, nothing wrong with that. And then this is an RU U perm, which you did from the front. It's actually the OH alg I think I used, but you did it with a regrip. So the easier way to do this without any regrips is just to do the back alg for this U perm, which actually results in no AUF here. So, because the U2 AUF, so just do it like that, and yeah, that solves the cube.
Thank you to StewCube for participating in this video. He's genuinely one of the best up-and-coming cubing channels I've seen lately, so I'll put the link to his channel and every other channel I'm collaborating with today in the description of this video. Next up, here's Caden Lee to roast my second solve.
Yo, what's up guys? My name is Caden and I run the YouTube channel called Caden Lee. So I average around 7 seconds on 3x3, and so a little bit about me, I make YouTube videos about cube theory videos, comp vlogs, and improvement videos on how to get faster. So a link to my channel will be in the description. Hopefully Tebow, please put it in the description, or you guys can just put it into the YouTube search bar. So now that you guys know a little bit about me, our objective today is to get Tebow sub 10, which, spoiler, he will. So let's just jump right into the critique. On the solve, you decided to go for a yellow cross, easily inserting green adjacent to orange right there, then inserting red. So they're all a D move away, but then you inserted this blue one right here with an R2 and then a D2 to finish the cross. This is a very nice cross. Good job predicting a good cross solution, but you did not predict first pair. And how I know that is you went So yeah, that is the main thing that I'm gonna give you advice for. Always predict your first pair. Predicting your first pair could be the difference between an 8-second solver and an 11-second solver, because it can save upwards of 2 to 3 seconds. You did a rotation and a bunch of U moves, and then another rotation before finding this pair, and then inserting it into the back. If you notice from inspection, this pair sits here the whole time, which would have been such an easy first pair, because when you do this move right here, and then solve these two, this one does not get touched at all. So you could have just solved your cross, and then you would have had this pair, which you could pair up like this, and then insert right here into the front. And then you would have had this pair just like you had. So we'll talk about a little bit more of first pair prediction a little later, but just remember, always predict your first pair. You then did a couple more U moves and then inserted this pair into the back, which means you lack a little bit in lookahead and you might be turning a little too fast for your solves, because that pair was so easy to spot. It was literally just right here. And if you're not able to see it, that means you're turning too fast. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit, but let's just go finish off the solve. Next, you had this pair, but this is not the best pair. This is a better pair right here. And that means that you are turning too fast, that you weren't able to spot the good pair, because this is also not too hard to spot. It's only a U move away from seeing. And this pair is a really bad pair. And if you solve this pair right here, it actually ends up taking out that pair anyways. So that means you should have not done this pair, because it requires like 3 extra moves that didn't have to be done. Whenever you have a pair that's in the slot, never take it out, because there's almost always a better option, just like this pair. But anyways, you rotated, did some U moves again, then solved this pair by taking it out like this, then solving it into the back. Which is a good way, but it's not the best way. The best way for solving this pair is splitting it up and then inserting into the back. That's just a little bit nicer of a solution. But anyways, you solved the pair just like this. And then you had this pair right here, which you did U moves and this thing again, and then paired it up and then inserted it. A cool little trick that you could do that I don't expect you to do, because you average 11 seconds, is do ZBLS. I would do this in my solves, that if I notice this edge right here, it's right next to that edge, you could pair it up the same way, and then do R prime D prime, insert this pair with wide moves like this, then D, R. And that actually solves all of OLL and gives you a J perm. I wouldn't have expected you to see the ZBLS, but if you want to learn it, it would be a cool trick to use in the future. But you solved it in a good way, pairing it up, then inserting it. You then had this OLO, which you used this algorithm, which you then had OLO, which you used this algorithm, which is not the best algorithm. I'll show you the best algorithm in just a second. And then you had Z perm, which you did this like M2U2 algorithm with like your left hand. That is not the best algorithm. I will show you the best algorithm. I don't use lefty middle finger moves, I use right-handed, so I'm just gonna mirror the video really quick, and then I'll show you the algorithm. So this is how it goes. You go MU, M2U, M2U, MU2, M2. And you hold it right here, one on the front and one on the left. And faster, this algorithm looks like this. So yeah, it's a really nice algorithm. But coming back to this point, the best algorithm from right here is just to do a hedge like this and then insert the pair. That is one move shorter, and it gives an A perm instead of a Z perm in this situation, so it's way better. And from right here, you could do an A perm from right here, or you could do a wide T perm right here with no AUF, which is probably what I would opt for because they're already matched up right here.
So the 2 points I made from the video were predicting first pair and consistentizing your turning. I don't even know if consistentizing is a word, but we're gonna act like it is. So first off, the predicting the first pair part, if you don't know how to do it, just take a look at one of JPerm's tutorials on it. Just go onto YouTube and type it into the YouTube search bar. And it's honestly not that hard, it just takes a lot of solves. What you can start off by doing is just tracking each piece as you go, and then just keep doing it over and over. Then what I want you to do is try doing it blindfolded. So you're going to pull up CS timer and then just start doing cross +1 blindfolded. And what that ends up doing is making sure that you can do it fast and consistent. But if you don't end up doing it and you accidentally do it wrong, just put it as a DNF into CS timer. Your aim should be able to do cross plus 1 in under 2 seconds or 2.5 seconds. At first it will take like 30 seconds of inspection to do it, or even like upwards of a minute, but as you do solves more and more, you'll get easily under 15 seconds. And then the second thing that you need to practice is your turning. So you were very inconfident in your solutions, which means you were just turning too fast that you couldn't even spot the pieces. So what I want you to do is just practice turning slower and more consistent, because then you're able to choose better F2L pairs to solve, leading to better solutions. Like for example, during your solves, you did a bunch of U moves and rotations for like one F2L pair, which you should never do this. You should do a max of like 3 rotations per solve, not per pair. Obviously these were little mistakes, but over time as you work on your turning, these mistakes will go away and you'll easily become sub 10. So let's talk a little bit about a schedule. So for day 1, or let's say you start on Monday, you're gonna practice predicting your first pair. And then Tuesday, you'll practice your turning. So those are the first 2 days. And then the third day, you'll practice just normal solves. And make sure to film your solves so you can see if you're doing it right or wrong. And then just practice these sets of 3 days over and over, and eventually you will become sub 10. If you have any questions, just reach back out to me and I can help you with anything you need. And for you guys that are watching the video, make sure you guys subscribe to Tebow, subscribe to me. There's going to be some banger videos in the future. Thank you for having me on, Tebow, and hopefully you get sub 10.
Great tips, Caden. If you want to see me follow his training plan in an upcoming video, make sure to comment that down below. Next up is someone I've collaborated with before, K4Cubing. But before we get to the next solve, I want to tell you guys about Speedcube Shop, the brand new sponsor of this channel. One of the most important parts of getting faster at 3x3 is consistent practice, and nothing motivates me to practice like having a good cube that I enjoy the feeling of turning. My current favorite is the GAN 14, it's great, and if you want to find your next main, find it at speedcubeshop.com and use the code TEBO for a 5% discount. Without any further ado, here's YouTuber and fellow Team SES member K4Cubing to roast my next solve.
I mainly do white cross, so in my solve, that's what I did. Tebow, on the other hand, did yellow cross, and honestly, yellow cross is a little bit easier. What you can do is move orange over like this so that you can put red in, and then blue and green are set up very easily like this, and now orient it, and boom, a pretty easy cross. So from here, he rotated to white blue and solved this pair like this into the back. From here, I probably would have done this pair like this, but I don't think that's much better than what he did. So Tebow solves the first pair really nicely, which sets up a really easy orange and blue, just like this. That is definitely the best thing to do in that scenario. That's what I would have seen, and that's what he saw. And now here's where it gets a little bit questionable. He sees this pair in the back, which is what I would have seen as well, and he rotates to set it up like this, and then rotates again to insert it into the back. Now, I'm going to show you 2 ways that you can avoid rotations in this scenario, and they use the same really cool F2L trick. So from here, obviously you can set it up in the back and bring it to the front without any rotations. And now to insert this rotation list, you have 2 options: regrip and do a sledge, or from home grip, you can do this wonky trick. Now, this is a slightly advanced trick, but once you master it, you are going to get addicted to using it. It's awesome. So from home grip, you can come down like this, and then F, L, U, and now M, like this. And what's cool is from here, you can also cancel into that algorithm. Instead, Tebow rotated like this to set it up into the back right here. And another way you can save a rotation is using the exact same trick, just in the back, and that looks like this. And now how using this trick backwards looks is simply L wide, and now you bring it here with a U, and then L prime, U prime, and then M prime, like this. Now this is also really convenient. When you pair this up, you can actually cancel into that algorithm like this, and it's super efficient. Again, if you can master that F2L trick, you will get addicted to it. It is literally so fun to do, and it's good for your solves. But instead, Tebow insisted on doing this and rotating and putting it into the back. And now here's probably where his most obvious mistake happens. You have this pair, and that is pretty easy to solve like this. But for whatever reason, he didn't see that and rotated an entire 180 degrees, which you should never have to do in a solve. and then he did it backwards like this, leading into this simple OLL, which he didn't do wrong. And then a U-perm, and you know how U-perms are, there's like 50 different algorithms that you could use. Tebow used an algorithm I'm actually not very familiar with, but he executes it extremely fast, so it works. What I would have done is U2 and then this algorithm, which gives you no AUF. But overall, his solve was pretty nice with 6.7 TPS, which is higher than I averaged, so good job, Dylan.
K4 cubing, great stuff as always, and before we get to the final solve of the video, I just want to say, if you're one of the few people who made it this far into the video, thank you. This video has been in the works for months, and I'm definitely taking a huge risk by making a video this long. So if you like what you see, make sure to comment that down below, give some support, and subscribe for more fun cubing videos like this. Now, here's Jack with the final solve of the video.
Hello everyone, I'm Jack, and I won't stress over the introduction too much. All you need to know is that Tebow asked me to roast his solves. Just kidding, although I'm pretty sure that was the actual wording when I applied for this. But he asked me to do a critique of a solve that he sent me. And yeah, the way this will go is we will first start by looking at the solve itself, and after that we will take a look at what I would do if I was given the scramble. Of course, giving tips along the way. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, I don't need to be a rocket scientist to tell you that he messed up his first pair, slotting it all wrong. And honestly, for getting a 10.6 on a mess up that bad, I wouldn't really complain, especially if it's during competition. However, that's definitely something that you have to watch out for. I'm not sure if that it speaks clearly that he did not plan out his first pair properly, but I think that for this scramble, and especially later on when we talk about my solution, it's actually pretty easy to predict where or to plan out what your first pair will be. So I think that it's definitely something that he needs to work on if he wants to push onward to sub 10. Another thing I noticed, especially during F2L, is basically rotations for every pair. And that's obviously really bad, not just for F2L, but for your solve in general. The more rotations you have, it's genuinely for the worst. It's not even just a generalization, it's an outright truth that the more rotations, the worse. You want to regrip as little as possible, especially on an event as quick as 3x3. So yeah, that's something to work on. You need to experiment a bit more with slotting with your left and slotting in the back. That's also going to be clear when we talk about my solution if I was given the scramble. And yeah, just generally, whenever I talk to people about being sub 10, I tell them that it's not about your alg choices. It's more or less about F2L. It's a bit of a flex, but when I first started becoming sub 10, I actually didn't know full OLL. And actually, I'm pretty sure I know someone else who's also like really fast without knowing full OLL. But obviously, it's not an excuse to not learn like alg sets and all that. But I think that it's less crucial in breaking the sub 10 barrier compared to having a good F2L. So whenever I talk to people about this stuff, I usually just tell them work near F2L. So yeah, without further ado, let's look at how I would do this scramble. So what they'll do is X2, an X2 rotation. So you'll have blue front, yellow top. Now what we'll do is an L prime and then an F prime, because all of these edges are basically opposite of each other. And we'll be solving orange and blue, the orange blue cross edges, by doing R, B prime, R, sorry. And we basically have a solve cross that's just a D2 away from being solved. Now, as I said earlier, this is exactly where we want it. So what we do is we move the corner here to the back so that we can do RU R prime to pair it properly. And then we just slot it here on the left. Now, the next pair that I paid attention to was the green-red pair, because it was literally right in front of me. So what we do is a U2, and then we do U prime, R prime to separate it. And then I did a rotation to slot it normally with an RU R prime. Now, although you can do this one, which also reduces the rotation, you'd still need to rotate, at least for my knowledge of F2L, because my next pair was blue-red, and I put the blue-red edge over here to the blue center. Now I did an L prime, U prime L, which pairs this together, and then slot it to the left. Now, one last rotation for the orange-green pair, and that's an RU R prime, which pairs it, and then just a standard slot. Then last layer, you don't have to worry about too much, because honestly, as long as you know a good amount of OLL and PLL, you should be just fine. So yeah, hopefully you were able to see the emphasis on reducing rotations in F2L and also making sure that you plan out your first pair. And yeah, hopefully this helped. Thanks for having me, Tebow, and I think you can do it. You can get to sub 10.
Hopefully these solve critiques taught you some valuable lessons that you can apply to your own solves to get faster, but there's one technique that wasn't touched on in this video that once I realized it got me instantly faster at 3x3. Click here to see what that is.